fam, happy Friday. Welcome to the weekend. Hopefully it was a good week for you. It was a long, brutal week for me, but I think what we'll do today is we'll talk a little bit about today's story. We'll talk about how to make it actionable, and then we'll end on a high note, because I think as troubling as the stories have been from the past week, it all comes together in a positive way, and we'll talk about that in a second. First, I got to touch on Anime Paul and the Green Party. They continue to be garbage. They continue to die in the polls. I think they're now 5%, 5-5, matching with the People's Party of Canada at the very bottom of the list. It's so bad. Last we talked to, they're forecasted to be bankrupt in 2 months. So they're financially bankrupt. They're dying in the polls, and now we find out they're also morally bankrupt as rebel media and a bunch of far right personalities are coming to their defense and trying to boost Anime Paul and the Green Party. And I think that the character of the people that she has surrounded herself with and those that she considers allies is officially on display. And we can safely say R.I.P. to the Green Party, to those poor people involved. I wish you a very happy quit your party, and please come join the NDP. They are flawed. All parties are terrible, but if you have to pick a party, this is the one that we can maybe reform. So with that said, let's take a look at one of the other stories that I thought was super interesting. And so Anime Paul comes in, announces her office is set up. She doesn't say a single word about the cops and the violence they've enacted on the poor unhoused individuals across Toronto. We now see that the reason for the urgency and why cops needed to go and brutalize so many and imprison so many and just make Toronto look like hell across the world. There's headlines from I think BBC and a bunch of other outlets too of the cops just wailing on people. We can now see it was all for a good cause because they're filming a movie, and it's going to be a really good movie. I'm sure it's going to get at least 98% of Rotten Tomatoes. Totally worth the violence and the harm that is be traumatizing some people forever. Bravo, well done, City Council. You people are trash. Yeah. So back to a positive note. So the stories today that really popped out, I think, is the Victim of Communism Memorial. They've received donations honoring fascist Nazi collaborators, according to their own website. You'll love to see it. Everybody from Passage and on the left wing, we already knew it was trash. We already knew the Victims of Communism Fund is almost entirely made up of Nazis. Communists are very good at doing away with fascists, and this is a good thing. And this is primarily who is the target and who would be memorialized through this construction. We knew this was going to cost about $1 million when it first started, and is ballooned through the Conservatives and through the Liberals to now be, I think, $5 or $6 million that you and I are paying as taxpayers. So it's nice to see the CBC and a mainstream outlet start to cover the fact that we are spending so much money to memorialize Nazis. Quickly going through the headlines of the story, we see that there's individuals here like here we go. So the organization calling itself the General Committee of United Croats of Canada, they purchased virtual bricks, and this project is being financed by selling virtual bricks. They thought a lot of people would buy them. It turns out that not a lot of people are, so that's why Canadians are financing it. And those people who are buying bricks are largely Nazis. So an organization calling itself the General Committee of United Croats of Canada purchased virtual bricks dedicated to Ante Pavlich, describing him as only as a doctor of laws. Pavlich was the wartime leader of UTASA, the fascist organization that ran the independent state of Croatia, a Nazi puppet regime. In this role, Pavlich was the chief perpetrator of the Holocaust in the Balkans, where approximately 32,000 Jews, 25,000 Roma, and 330,000 Serbs were murdered by the regime. That's one guy. That's one guy. It's one of the things that's so disgusting about this thing is you have all of those Nazis who were killed by the communists, the untold numbers that the Nazis have killed themselves, historically speaking, but in present day, we continue to have so many killed through capitalism and the various injustices, the social murder that we see take place. Like just in BC, a few weeks ago, we had 800,000 people die from a heat wave. It was a heat wave we knew was going to happen. It was a heat wave we warned people about, but we didn't spend any resources on it. We knew that that ambulances and health services were underfunded, but we didn't do anything about it. And that inaction is called social murder, where we choose to prioritize capital over lives. So we know that however many people may have passed through communism, at capitalism, I think it's a minimum of 10 to 20 million people are dying through neglect each year. So it's not just historically speaking, but presently speaking, so much worse with what we have now than what communism had. Going back to like the names that have been raised here, We've got individuals who perpetrated crimes as Nazis themselves, as collaborators of Nazis. We have an organization here called the Knightly Order of Vitesse, who purchased 5 bricks in the project, where several members of the order actively participated in the persecution, despoliation, and in 1944, the deportation of the Hungarian Jews. We'll scroll a little bit down here. We see that 437,000 Jews were deported because of them. So mass murder, mass deportation, and this memorial that we are paying millions of dollars for is going to memorialize these Nazis under the guise of the Victims of Communism Fund. It's just absolutely disgusting. You keep scrolling through and you'll read now that the conservatives are the large ones who wanted to back this. Jason Kenney was a huge fan. Stephen Harper, huge fan. We talk about the finances. So it was originally forecasted to cost $1.5 million to be drawn exclusively from private donations. Of course, nobody wants to pay to remember Nazis, so they needed public funds to do that. By the end of 2014, under Harper, the project's budget had ballooned to $5.5 million, with taxpayers contributing $4.3 million. And it's not just the conservatives. Liberals are very pretty, very flowery worded opposite side of the conservative coin, or the capital coin. And they also have been funding and supporting this project. Last word here. The spokesperson said the estimated total cost of the monument is now $7.5 million, with $6 million coming from the federal government, after Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland included an additional $4 million in this spring's budget. So Chrystia Freeland is problematic for so many ways, not just because she's financing the Nazi memorial, but because her grandfather is a Nazi. And if not directly a Nazi, he was a collaborator with the Nazis, and she speaks out often about the love and support she has for him, presently has. She does not speak to the problematic elements of being a Nazi, of collaborating with Nazis, and it's very frustrating to see. As the minister, not only is she have this problematic view, but she's continuing to support the Saudis, which are enacting war in Yemen and killing so many through famine and just direct violence. It's something Canada's supporting. It's disgusting. So one of the things that was super cool, that blew up Twitter, as he often does, we have Comrade Dylan again. I think I've only done like 3 shows and we've talked about him twice already. He's dope, always has cool and good takes. And so just as fun, he says, yes, last night, I lived in this writing for years and I've never received an email reply, a piece of mail, nothing from Freeland. This election nears the election nears, my friends, and the grifters are coming out. Psyched to run a strong campaign in Uniro's NDP. And then he's ripped up her pamphlet here. So this is funny. This is like just a quirky, fun thing to do before he throws it in the recycling. But the reaction from the Liberals was absolutely mind blowing. They lost their mind, and I'm not going to go through all the responses. You can go and check out Dylan. If you check out the quote tweets and the people in the comments, it is just an absolute nightmare watching all the people with Canadian flags lose their mind over this. This is not talking about policy. This isn't talking about the millions of people that have died under the Saudi Arabia who she finances and continues to support as part of the Liberal government. This is about her perspective of her grandfather who helped the Nazis and anything like that, anything related to issues. This is just a simple tearing of a pamphlet. And we scroll through like the comments here, and I had a really good time just watching the Liberals lose their mind. But someone here makes a really good point. And sorry, I'm going to go to the quote tweets. So this isn't the first time that people have defaced mailings. We have Brandon Canning here, who I also adore. I think he's a communist member. But he posted a video of him literally burning a flag mailer for Matthew Green NDP, and he did not get as much hate as Dylan's getting right now. Liberals are not okay. And this is true. Matthew Green, during the height of people's frustration and emotion with the discovery of the residential mass graves, Matthew Green sent out a mailer that had the Canadian flag to celebrate Canada Day, and that's a bad thing to do. It's a stupid thing to do. And to be clear, I don't think Matthew Green sent it out at the peak of this. I think he probably pre-purchased this months, if not years ago, so it just comes out. But it's a bad look and it's a bad thing to do, and it should have been stopped. It was not stopped. It was an oversight. So naturally, people like Brandon and others spoke about how silly and stupid this was, and they defaced those mailers. And I personally was watching it, and I was laughing, and I was quietly applauding, and I thought it was a good thing. And to be honest, I think even Matthew Green would support them for that if he won't say it publicly. But he's like, yeah, I'm sure he would agree that it was a silly thing to have sent out, and he would wish that he hadn't done that. But when this was happening, nobody was complaining, nobody was calling for his head, nobody was reporting his account or trying to get him kicked off of Twitter, because we understood the deeper issues. And one of the other things too is that Matthew Green himself, he called himself out for being stupid and sending that out, and that should not have gone out. And then one of the things that was really interesting too is like he got, as a response to that mail out, someone sent this to him. And you probably can't see, but this is like a bunch of names. Somebody had written a name, the names of people who had died in the residential schools, just to make it clear how unhappy they were that this mailer had gone out supporting Canada during Canada Day at a time when the nation was dealing with such great suffering. And shout out to Matthew Green for owning it, taking this out, and kind of saying, "Yo, I made a mistake, but look at what we learned." And I think this is a really important thing, and I think this is indicative of those of us on the left. Is we'll talk about the issues all day. Like, let's talk about the things that matter. If we want to like make a stupid post and like jokingly rip up something, if that's where you want to direct your rage and your anger, you have real deep issues. And I feel so deeply bad for our poor liberal friends who just get angry. I don't understand why at the silliest things. So to make this all actionable, I want to say this is a really good opportunity to talk to your friends and colleagues about the Victims of Communism Memorial. And to be really clear, this really is a memorial to Nazis. The communists killed so many Nazis, so many fascists. They've done such good work and will continue to do good work after we win the revolution. But we want to really try to make people aware that this whole memorial is trash and is supporting people who killed hundreds of thousands, if not more, and who persecuted so many across the globe. It is nothing but a memorial to fascism and a memorial to Nazis, and normalizing the encouragement of these beliefs. So this is a good opportunity to talk to people you don't normally talk about, because you don't often get the chance to say, hey, we should stop giving money to Nazis, and be literally talking about Nazis. We on the left like to call a lot of people Nazis because we can find like the theoretical background to tie the two together. This is directly supporting Nazis, and it's a really good opportunity for us to bring this up in conversation to those who aren't so politically engaged, and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't give money to literal Nazis. In addition to that, we can always tie in that Chrystia Freeland is involved in this, and she just announced that they'll be giving $4 million. So it's a good opportunity to discuss her problematic beliefs, not just in terms of supporting her Nazi grandpa, not just in terms of her supporting the various wars, but also she talks a lot about austerity, and she talks about how as hinted in past tweets that the once COVID's over, Canadians are going to have to tighten their belt. So it's a good opportunity to kind of lay the groundwork for conversations about why she's bad, why the liberals are bad, and why the conservatives are bad, because we get to directly tie them to Nazis, which is a lovely thing. And I think that runs the gamut for today. I will quickly say that what I'm excited about is that we see these stories break, and we see people get so passionate about it, especially the liberals and the right. Because they have nothing else. They're losing on every single issue. When we talk about Cuba yesterday, we see that the U.S. is acting almost out of a sense of desperation. The capitalists are scared because across Central America, movements on the left and socialists are rising up, and they're winning power with the people, and we're going to be making real change. And that's scaring the capitalists. So of course, they're going after Cuba twice as hard. We talked about the cops cracking down on the homeless encampment in the unhoused encampment the day before. And that's also a sign of the people standing up in solidarity with them. In the past, you probably wouldn't see the videos and the pictures you did come out of it, because so many people are willing to stand up and are willing to fight. And it's a really exciting time for that solidarity. So to quickly recap the opportunities for action, this is a good opportunity to talk to your neighbors about we should not support Nazis. From yesterday, we talked about the Cubans, and I think it's a good opportunity to find leftist voices who are going to be anti-imperialist. That includes people people like Rob Rousseau, Tony Tracy, and Passage Magazine. They are always having good content. And then in terms of the homeless encampments, it's talking about building municipal power, what we can do to find groups like Horizon Ottawa. And I would say go and sign up for Horizon Ottawa just so you can learn from them and take their best practices and apply it in your city or your organization because they do such good work. But yeah, start building up power locally. So I think we have kind of like a good holistic setup to making the world a better place, and it's just going to keep getting better. We will have worse stories, we will have depressing stories, but I think we are coming together as a people, and we will rise up, and things will get better real quick, real soon. So I send you love, I send you solidarity. Have yourself a fantastic weekend, comrade. I love you. Peace.
Marching across the fields where a million fascists died, you're bound to lose. You fascists